Hello and welcome to Modern Art is Rubbish, episode number 14. Are you all right, Tom?
Yeah, I'm great, Mark. It's 14. That's amazing.
Yeah,
for some reason I thought we were 13, but that was the last one, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is endurance. This is a test of endurance. So we're going to be looking at artists that give themselves a real test of their resilience. So we're looking today at artists that endure.
Great.
Before we start, I'd just like to say one of our listeners pointed out that during the Blue episode I described the artist Yves Klein as Yves Klein. So just to set the record straight, his name was actually Yves Klein, not Yves, as I like to say.
So Yves, is it spelled with a Y?
Yeah, I fell into that old trap.
Yeah, well, you know, it's a difficult trap because everyone pronounces stuff so different.
Well, yeah.
We're going to find that with our next artist, aren't we?
Yes, because the artist is Meeks Poppy. He's a Belgium artist. He took a block of marble and he put it in the middle of a Belgium courthouse. There's a chain put through the centre of it to which he shackled his leg. So you've got this big cube of marble in the middle of a room, and this artist decided to try and chisel his way out of it.
So I guess marbles, I'm imagining it's very heavy.
Yeah, 4 tons.
4 tons?
Yeah. So this guy, he spends the next 19 days trying to chisel his way through this block. So he doesn't get very far. He gets, he does. Actually, he does get very far. I watched the videos. There's a live feed of this guy, and apparently the marble represents art history.
You do well to get through all of art history in 19 days.
Yeah. Yeah, symbolically, he's trying to free himself from art history by chipping away at this block of marble and thus releasing himself from the burden of art history. I don't know what kind of art you'd make if you got free of art history. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard to imagine, I guess. It's some sort of art that we can't see yet because, as like we're going to allude to in a minute, he never got himself free of it, did he?
No. He got 19 days and had to be rescued. They got an angle grinder to cut through this heavy metal chain that was around his ankle. But he didn't feel actually disappointed, and he actually said that, you know, he learned that you can't truly free yourself from art history.
It seems like he gave up after 19 days because I guess he was quite close. If I've seen the footage as well, He was quite close to releasing himself. Is that how far he wanted to get and then give up? Do you think that was pre-planned?
Yeah, I don't know why, because 19 days he had food and water, so I would have thought he could have. What do you reckon that was, about another 4 days of chiselling? 5 days? Maybe
even less now. He was close, wasn't he?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he was tired. He was missing his comforts. I don't know. Maybe he had an appointment.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what happened there, but yeah, he's free now. He's free to do whatever he does, but with the shackles of art history around him.
Yeah, as we all carry around with us, I guess.
The next guy I want to talk about is really interesting, and again another name that's quite difficult to pronounce, and his name is Tetching Sier, and he's a Taiwanese artist. He's quite interesting. He was an immigrant. He came across from Taiwan to America, and he was here illegally for quite a long time. Well, he was there illegally for quite a long time. So you can imagine if you're illegal in America, you end up doing quite rubbishy jobs. So he was like a dishwasher, and he was a cleaner at a restaurant for ages and ages. And eventually one time he got home. Now he realised that his life was actually his art. So there's kind of this routine, this kind of spending his days doing the same thing day in, day out, is what his art is about. It's how you spend your time. So what he did from 1978 to 1986, he did 5 performances over that period, and they all lasted 1 year each. And The one I'm quite interested in was the first one he did. It was called 1 Year Performance, time clock piece. So you've got to imagine he's in this room. It's a pretty miserable looking room, and he even wears pretty much the same clothes, like a sort of grey shirt, grey trousers. He looks a bit like he works in a garage, and he's got a clock on the wall, a sort of a time clock, a punching in and out clock. And what he decides to do, as to sort of show how life and time, you know, the passage of it, he clocks in every hour for a year. So on the hour, every hour for a whole year, he clocks in.
What, are we talking 24 clocks a day?
Yes. So he has to punch in. So literally, if he goes out, say he goes, I've just got to pop to the, I don't know, I've just got to pop to the local supermarket for
sausage or
sausage, whatever. Or noodles, whatever you do. He has to be back within 59 minutes.
So he managed to do 365 days, clocking every hour without missing. He must have missed one. He must have dropped asleep, surely.
He only missed 100 in the whole year. And that was literally where he slept through a really loud alarm, because he could only sleep for 59 minutes because he had to clock in. Yeah. So what he also did was he took a photograph every time he clocked in. So there's all these photographs of him. And at the start as well, before he started this piece, he had his hair all shaved off. So gradually over time, you see these photographs of this guy, and his hair's getting longer and longer and longer and longer.
Yeah, so by the end of the year, I'm imagining he looks like what? How long was his hair at the end?
He looks like a really tired hippie guy.
A tired hippie guy, yeah.
Who's got a good job, because his suit's still, his working clothes are still very nice. Yeah. He said it's about life and time, and life is just passing time. So doing art, so it's about this process of time and repetition.
Right.
Another one of the pieces he did over the 5-year period was 1 year he was actually tethered to another artist for a whole year.
What, tethered? What, like by Bluetooth?
No, by rope. Old style Bluetooth.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was tethered to another artist with a rope, and also he did another one which is quite interesting, because he's a bit too early, because he did one where he didn't produce any work, any art, talk about art, look at art for a whole year. So he did no artwork whatsoever.
And he called that art in itself a piece of art.
Yeah, it was a piece of art. But the funny thing is, if he'd hung on, for people that have listened to our old podcasts, he probably could have got a grant from Maurizio Catalan. Because you remember, I don't know if you remember that thing with the Oblomov Foundation, where Maurizio Catalan paid people money if they would do no art for a year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so he could have earned a bit of cash that way. So that was quite an endurance one.
Yeah, that's quite severe endurance. Every day on the hour. I mean, it's tiring to think about it, actually. My eyes are kind of going a little bit... He must have been knackered, mustn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so how did he survive? Because obviously he's got to eat and drink. He must have, been able to earn money doing it, did he? Or?
But he probably didn't eat very much.
Yeah, well, so if anyone knows, please get in touch with us.
I doubt he would have ate very much, because he wouldn't have time to do a big shop.
What's our email? It's info@modernartisrubbish.com.
Yes. Sorry.
Please let us know. What's his name, this guy?
Tetsing Sier.
Tetsing Sier. How did he afford to do his art? We want to know at the show.
The next enduring artist is a guy called Abraham Poincheval, right? And he's a French artist, and he's born in 1972. And the piece that I was quite interested in was actually happened last year. And what it is this guy, he lived inside a giant limestone boulder for a week. So
what, he lived inside? What, he just sat inside it?
Yeah. What he did was, you can imagine, there's a giant boulder, and it's been sliced in half, and carved out of the boulder is a sort of like a seated shape of a human so that he can actually get inside it. And then what happens is this limestone boulder is then shut, so he's encased inside the boulder, and he lived inside it for a week. He's got supplies in there, and people could still talk to him, and there's a video camera in there, so on the gallery you can see the video of him being inside this boulder. But of course he's got to live inside it with all his wee-wee and his poo-poo.
So I guess he had a kind of spaceman sort of arrangement with his wee-wee and poo-poo.
I think he just had plastic bottles. I don't think he actually seemed to go that high-tech with it.
Oh, right, okay.
So he just had to store it around him. Which isn't...
Yeah, well, it must have been, like, smelly.
The challenge that he faces is, again, it's quite similar to tetching, is that it's about time. And he's very interested in apparently, like, boulder time, like the time that it is inside, you know, this timeless quality that I suppose that rocks have. And he's interested in how the passage of time is affected by sitting inside the boulder.
Interesting.
Apparently, though, people were coming up and talking to him and asking him questions and saying their problems, and he thinks they were actually kind of just talking to the boulder rather than him.
Yeah.
So it's like boulder therapy.
Yeah. So I guess were people talking French to him? Was this in France? This
yes,
performance.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Whereabouts in France was it?
I don't actually know whereabouts it was located. I believe it was in Paris.
Yeah.
In a gallery. I mean,
how's your French? What would you say to him?
Ça va?
Ça va, ça va.
Il y a une bonne piscine ici.
Is that a good swimming pool?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, when he came out, he felt very sort of dazed, but which is pretty much normal if you've been living in a rock.
Yeah, particularly if people are outside saying good swimming pool to you.
Yeah. So, I mean, he does this a lot. He previously did one where he lived inside a life-size brown bear, obviously a dead bear. He crawled inside it and...
Not a real bear, not inside its intestines.
Well, no, that was all... It was a taxidermy bear, but for 13 days he stayed inside a bear.
Yeah.
And I think it's again of he's trying to get back to sort of like somehow understand nature and be within it.
Yeah.
Because gradually, after a while, you lose your sense of self, the sense of who you are.
It's all about the bareness of time.
You get back to the bare necessities. Starting off, I'd like to mention, and you said about this as well, Tom, is that we should look at David Blaine.
Yeah, so David Blaine, he's a well-known entertainer, magician.
Yeah.
But he does endurance events, doesn't he? So he did his standing on a pole. I think that was in New York. Yeah, that was one.
Yeah.
And then he did was it in an ice box somewhere? And then he did it in a box by London Eye as well.
Well, that's what we're going to look at. Yeah. The one he did in London was called Above the Below. Now, I think his work is art as well as performance. Obviously not his magic stuff isn't art, it's artful, but it's not art. But these endurance pieces I think are artful. And what it was for more than 6 weeks he was locked inside a 3 by 7 by 7 foot plexiglass box, and it was suspended about 30 feet in the air, and he had no food for the whole time, and all he had was water, and that was it to drink, nothing else.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Amazing
feat of endurance.
Well, yeah, it was also really about, I mean, he talks about bringing people together, and the idea, he said that when you have nothing and you're living with nothing, there's no distraction, you're just there as you are, almost struggling, and he says, I think it's the sort of purest state you can be in. And I actually saw this piece. I actually went to London, and when you look at him, you can see it's just it's an incredible spectacle. When you see it, it feels like you're part of history, but also you see it, and he is a person in his purest state, because there's only so much you can be thinking of. There's only so much you can be dealing with, and in the end, he's just being. You can't. I don't imagine after 44 days, which is how long he was up there for, your brain will start to slow down, because you can see out and you can see all these people, and he looked very calm, and it was quite odd that there was loads of people there. Yet I was there with my mother. When me and my mother turned up, he noticed that we were new people that had just arrived, and he actually waved to my mum. So he was aware of everyone, and it was quite an incredible thing.
It was breathtaking, yeah. I remember his first one, or the one that he did on the pole in New York.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing him talk about it after he'd done it. And he was saying it went back to an old story of monks protesting against I think it was against Romans from thousands of years ago, and how they sat on poles outside the city as a protest for 24 hours. So it was quite, the way he talked about what he was doing, it was quite sensitive and artistic.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. One of his first ones was where he was buried underground in a plexiglass coffin. On top of him, they put a 3-ton water tank filled with, a 3-ton water tank full up with water. And he survived under there for 7 days and nights with nothing but liquids.
Yeah, and at some point you just got to say, okay, he's gone mad.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, okay, you're still on a pole, you've been in a plexi box.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you doing now? What's going on? I don't know. I don't know much about him as a person, but that's quite extreme sort of things he's doing.
Yes. And I think when you put yourself in different situations, you do learn a lot about yourself, or you learn a lot about other people.
Yeah, because I remember he went on breakfast television in this country to do an interview, and people talking to him, and he had a dazed look in his eyes, and they had to end the interview. Did you ever see footage of that?
No.
He was like a vegetable on breakfast TV.
Oh.
Worth checking that out.
Sounds a bit fluxus.
Eamon Holmes, I think, was interviewing him. It was like he was having like some sort of medical event. It was like he couldn't respond, and he was like had a dazed look in his eyes, and he was on live television.
Oh, I don't know that one. I'll have to have a look at that. We'll put a link on the site if we can find it. Yeah. Right. So,
are we not going to talk about Eamon Holmes anymore?
Right, so the final one I just want to mention, someone we've talked about before, Tom, Chris Burden, and this was a piece that he did when he was a student.
Yeah, so this college. Is before he progressed onto guns and being kicked down the stairs, if my memory serves me correctly.
Oh, it was, yeah. As we discussed previously, Chris Burden did consider himself a sculpture. His works, he considered them sculptural works. So initially when he was at college, he decided that he would climb inside a locker and live in it for 5 days. So there's a row of lockers in the college, and they're about 2 foot by 2 foot by 2 foot, and he just climbed inside it and lived in it for 5 days.
Are you sure he wasn't just stuck in it?
No, well, I think the thing is he probably would have been stuck in it. It's interesting. People apparently came up and talked to him and knocked on the door and stuff, and all he had was a bit of some water, and he didn't have any other food.
So he was a student at this school at the time he did this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons he climbed inside a locker as opposed to making a box and get inside the box, he didn't want the box to be part of the artwork. So he liked the fact that the locker was there before. And then after the artwork is finished, the locker just goes back to being a locker again.
Yeah. Nice.
So, yeah, I couldn't get inside a locker. I'd just be too big.
You're a 6 foot plus man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how big Chris Burden is.
Yeah, would you be tempted to get in a locker? Tom?
Yeah, I could slide in quite easily, couldn't I?
We've got Kenzie's kitty litter box there. Could you get in there?
I wouldn't get in my cat litter box under any circumstances.
That'd be quite impressive. That'd be quite a feat of endurance, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'd have to wear like a hazard suit.
Yeah.
And wellies. Well, if it was in, Kenzie's litter box, it's not a place you want to spend much time.
She doesn't even like it. Yeah.
Well, I have to note to everyone listening, I do keep her litter box clean. It's not like I never go in there and it stinks. But I wouldn't want to like spend any amount of time in there. No. But I guess if it was for art, I could imagine getting in my yellow suit with wellies, just slipping in there, living in there for a few weeks. And I guess Chris Burden, he got out the locker. He was probably a bit of a hero, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, he was the talk of the college, and he kind of set the bar for everyone else. Apparently, the art tutors, expected everyone else to go as kind of like as interesting as his piece was. So, right, Tom, anything else to add?
What about endurance?
Yeah.
Well, I've actually run a marathon.
Have you?
Yeah.
Was it an arty marathon though?
I was wearing salmon-coloured outfit. Does that count as art?
Well, I don't know. Is it salmonist?
Salmonist, yeah.
That doesn't sound like art. That sounds like it's against salmons, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You salmonist.
I don't know. Endurance. Just trying to think. It would be nice to be involved in a big endurance jam, for example.
Yeah.
Where you did a 24-hour jam session with the music. But the thing is, stuff like that, it's quite sort of like self-involved, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not really.
But I guess all art is in some way.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think it's that experience, isn't it? It's what I found doing the endurance piece, the David Cameron, it is as much about what you go through, and it is about your own personal development. I'm sure that these artists do that. They do it because it's spectacle and it's interesting, but also because it's a spectacle, but it's also an inner journey as well, which is quite interesting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Keep that in.
Yeah. So, just before we go, just to say, we do have a Facebook page and we do have a lot of chats on Facebook, and you can email us on info@modernartisrubbish.com. Anything else, Tom?
You can visit us on our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/modernartisrubbish.
You're cool, yeah.
And visit our website, modernartisrubbish.com, where each episode has all the images we're talking about and the story of each episode. You can read as you listen.
Yes, so you can see the images or links to the images depending on what the copyright situation is. Oh, don't need to say that, do I?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And iTunes, if you can subscribe on iTunes, and if you've got time, if you can give us a 5-star review, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, so please get in touch and interact with us. If you want to talk about art with us or mention any artists you'd like us to talk about, please let us know.
Yes, cool.
And engage with us, because we love a bit of engagement.
Yes, we do. Indeed. Right, I'm going to hold my breath now. Right, that's it.
God, I was really nervous there for a minute. I was like, where's this going to end?
All right, I suppose it's just byes then.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.